All right, everybody, good morning. It's a pretty early series of low tides, but we've dragged ourselves out of bed to come to the beach and look at this. Oh, there's so much place to explore. So we're out here at Penrose Point State Park this morning doing some of our community science beach monitoring, and I'm going to flip the camera around and we get to see our lovely team here. Kind of operating on the skeleton crew because 8 o'clock in the morning is an early start time for a beach adventure. Probably 10 is still even early for a live, but we're just going to do a quick little review of what we're up to here and then get back to work because you know how that goes. But if you're tuning in, feel free to let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and type those in the comments and we can catch you up in real time. So so I'm looking at one of our 3 Penrose sites. This is the third of the furthest one out. It happens to be right next to one of our oyster plots, which looking here, you're like, that doesn't look like a lot. It used to be a nice square of oyster shells, but you can see that the water really moves around here, surprisingly. And so these shells have moved around, and hopefully there's still some Olympia oysters hanging out in these plots, but really that's been hard to see. This is kind of a big one. This is dead, so I'm not killing anything when I open this, but I know this is an Olympia oyster shell because I can look at the edges and see those teeth. So that's my indicator that this is indeed an Olympia oyster, or at least it was an Olympia oyster. We can compare that to the Japanese oyster here. This is kind of a scuzzy shell, but you'll notice where that hinge would be, there's no teeth. So teeth, little edges, and then no teeth. Nice and smooth. And the Japanese oyster, these bigger shells here, these aren't alive. We've seen, there's all the live ones are up in that kind of barnacle band up on the top of the beach. But the idea is that these Pacific oyster shells will attract other oysters. So be it more Pacific oysters, sure, that's fine. But ideally, the Olympia oysters would take hold here and focus, sorry, and come back. So it's exciting to see. And yes, Rachel says nothing is constant at the beach. The beach is full of change, and that's why we monitor it. So we're out here. Kinsey and Mike are doing some of the quadrat work where we're counting all the living things that we find in those squares, and we're at the -1 tidal height. We have Perseus here with UWT helping us out today, and there's even some folks, having a picnic up there. So lovely to have Mary joining us from Gig Harbor. Even Jenny's tuning in. That's so cool. But one of the things that Perseus and I just finished up with is starting at the top of that beach. You can see this line that moves from the top all the way down to next to me. This is our profile line. So this is the area that we come back to every summer, every winter to do our surveys. And the survey we just completed is a presence absence survey. So essentially every 3 meters along this line, looking at what's here. And we saw some pretty cool stuff. Barnacles, of course, were in every square that we saw. Let's see, anything else? A lot of red seaweed. You can see the green seaweed showed up a little bit later in the data. But another thing that maybe I'll point out, since they're right here, is all these sand dollars. So these sand dollar shells, if you can see the hole of the mouth in the middle and the butt on the edge, then you definitely know this is not a living sand dollar. To find a living sand dollar, we'll look for the darker. This one is definitely embracing the sand dollar name here, being that it's very sandy. But that nice dark purple color, the fact that I can't see the mouth or the other hole, is a good indicator to me that this sand dollar is alive and well. And just, yeah, kind of raking the sand with my fingers, you'll see that, oh man, there's a lot of them living here in the sand, as you might expect. How about that? So we'll just tuck them back in. Right, we want to leave things on the beach how we found them to minimize our impact here. That's a good rule of thumb, even though it looks tempting to maybe pick up all these little sand pennies. They have life on them, and if they don't have barnacles living on them, they can become sand. So the shell debris is an important part of the habitat here. So again, we want to leave things on the beach where we found them. That's the best way to be a good guest on the beach. So we've got Howard tuning in, the crew, and the wind is picking up, and we're about to transition to a fish seine. And so since we're kind of a small team, that's going to be hard to do, but we'll be sure to take some pictures and do a little photo post on Instagram and share that over to Facebook's way as well. So, Rachel made a TikTok that exploded because people didn't know that sand dollars were living animals. They are indeed, and usually you just see these lovely shells on the beach. But yeah, they are alive, unless they're dead. Thanks, Kinsey. Rockin' and rollin'. So with that, I'm gonna get back to work here, but so glad to include you all on this lovely low tide this morning. And we'll be back at it tomorrow and the next day and again on the 28th. So tune in, say hi, ask your questions, have your wonders, and really get out yourself. Go enjoy this lovely low tide swing. Pick a beach. The mornings are going to be pretty great for that, but definitely check a tide chart and find when that lowest low is and enjoy yourself. So thanks all for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow.